el derecho de vivir. Poeta Ho Chi Minh, que golpea de Vietnam a toda la humanidad. Ningún cañón borrará el surco de tu arrozal, el derecho de vivir en paz.
Your Excellencies, Ambassador of Vietnam to the United States, Ambassador of Cuba to the United Nations, Ambassador of Nicaragua to the United Nations, longtime comrade and brother Nan, colleagues, comrades, sisters and brothers. I'd like to start first by acknowledging that we meet on the indigenous Lenape people's land and over the mass graves of unknown numbers of kidnapped and enslaved African people and on the centennial of three strugglers, Patrice Lumumba, Malcolm X, and Frantz Fanon, whose lives touch us and from whom we too learn many lessons of struggles, strategies, and resilience. Joining them are thousands of Palestinians who have been victims to Israeli genocide that aims at erasing the very existence of Palestinian people and struggle to realize the goal of a land without a people. And with them also a spirit that is very sorely missing today. That is our colleague, comrade, and anti-Zionist struggler, Meryl Ratner, who should have been here today. I am very honored to be here today celebrating the 50th anniversary of the glorious victory of the Vietnamese people against the biggest imperialist power on the face of the earth. I don't speak as an individual. I carry with me the sentiments, love, and solidarity of the collective Palestinian people who are inspired by your example of resilience, resistance, and gracefulness, even towards those who have dealt you and your country extreme harm and pain, wounds of which are still being felt today. We celebrate you and your victory. When we visited Vietnam in 2018, we saw with our own eyes what we have long heard about Vietnam and the Vietnamese people. I saw freedom. Growing up under Israeli occupation and Jordanian rule, I smelled it, as I did in Cuba too. I felt the pride and dignity and defiance and stubbornness, and I saw the willingness also to negotiate on equal footing, to demand remedies for the victims of Agent Orange and napalm and the removal of landmines. I saw the love for the community and determination to grow the new generation that knows the history but does not allow the ugly hate, to refuse to be held back by it, to rebuild, and I emphasize rebuild, and reconstruct the country from the ruins of the devastating war. I also saw the beautiful, rich civilization that almost tends to be forgotten when the talk of war takes over. The Museum of the Teacher, the universities, the extensive debates with officials and young interns, the discussions with Communist Party and Foreign Ministry members, the Friendship Society, the Palestinian ambassador who spoke perfect Vietnamese, the seminars at the universities and the Women's Academy. Everywhere there was beauty wherever we went. Everywhere there was food to be enjoyed. Everywhere there were people to talk to. It was the feeling of beauty and freedom, and it was also the need to erase the wounds that have been dug so deep, the scars are still there. For us, the Palestinians, we do look forward to the time when we can reach the final stage of victory and begin healing the wounds of genocide. We too possess revolutionary optimism, despite the bleak outlook now, when the blood of the children blocks any clear vision of light. The Palestinian struggle for freedom has been inspired by the Vietnamese on so many levels. The strategies and analysis of General Giap, Chairman Mao, Chairman Ho Chi Minh, and other Vietnamese, slip of the tongue, and other Vietnamese as cited by Palestinian revolutionaries and in the pages of every statement and organizational report. The solidarity you've expressed while struggling for your lives and liberation. You never stopped extending solidarity to Palestine, not only during good times, but at the most challenging times of yours and Palestinian life. In 1968, following 1967 Israeli occupation, the Democratic Republic of Vietnam, under President Ho Chi Minh, established democratic relations with the Palestine Liberation Organization. During Black September War of Jordan's monarchy against the Palestinians, Vietnam sent food and medical supplies to the Palestinian resistance. In 1976, within less than a year of the victory of Vietnam against US imperialism, Vietnam opened a mission for the Palestine Liberation Organization in Hanoi, recognizing Palestine following the UN adoption of Resolution 3379 of November 10, 1975, that Zionism is racism and a form of racial discrimination. The fact that this resolution has been repealed does not mean that this is inevitable. We know imperialism is not inevitable and victory can be achieved, and this will be repealed. As Vietnam stood by the Palestinian people, those who sought to destroy us also collaborated. For instance, after the defeat in the Battle of Dien Bien Phu, France brought General Marcel Bigot to defeat the liberation movement in Algeria. And one of his attributes, that he cut his bones in Indochina and brought along the vast experience of torture techniques and repression he used against the Vietnamese people to apply against the Algerian people. In March 1966, Moshe Dayan, the Israeli Minister of War, toured Vietnam as a guest of US military. After witnessing the US attack on the Cambodian border, he noted similar strategies between US and Israel. I quote, the United States and Israel employ almost identical language in speaking of reprisal actions. The formula employed in that is that the cost involved in aiding the enemy must be made so high that those involved would no longer be able to pay it. This was 1966, not yesterday. We don't have time to engage in lengthy comparative analysis. But isn't this too what the US blockade against Cuba is doing as well? Like the US, Israel used napalm against Palestinians in Jerusalem and Bethlehem in 1967, right after Dayan's visit to Vietnam. Napalm was also used not only by Israel, but also by King Hussein against Palestinian refugees in 1970. It was very important for the US not to allow King Hussein's regime to fall, so the Jordanian opposition movement and Palestinians will win. So, likewise in Vietnam, until this very day, Vietnam remains imprinted in our minds and heart by the wounds and by it being a mighty force that defeated the United States. So, I'm not going to take more time, but I want to reflect, as we were asked, on and drawing the lessons from the anti-war and Vietnam solidarity work in the United States. I think it's very important to remind ourselves again, in these bleak days, that it is possible to defeat US imperialism. Cuba is sitting here, and Vietnam is sitting here. We can defeat US imperialism. It's hard. They will continue trying to crush us. They're doing so in Palestine, but people are standing up and resisting. Keep remembering that. In the United States, along with the resistance and the solid fight of the Vietnamese people, a broad movement emerged of people who refused to be part of the US imperialist project. Young people refused to serve in the US military. They burned their draft cards. People made business as usual of war not possible. They refused to make the status quo possible. They said this is not normal times. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people said when things are not okay, we are not going to go and normalize what's going on. Today, this is what's going on. Many students, many young people are protesting, are standing up and saying this is not okay. We don't have an anti-war movement or anti-Vietnam War movement in Israel, unfortunately, but we do have it worldwide. And the system is very anxious, very nervous. We face new McCarthyism, we face repression. Every time people stand up and speak, they are being captured, they are being attacked, but we do see a very big resistance movement. And I'm going to tell my comrade Ed, I'm happy to report I am co-chair of the Palestine Arab Muslim Caucus of the California Faculty Association. And we were a very small part a few years ago, but we have been successful last semester in the Assembly to pass a resolution titled Money for Jobs and Education, not for War and Occupation. We have the whole caucuses, and it passed through the Assembly now. It's a union resolution. This semester, we just passed a resolution to cut all ties with Israeli universities. That's all the union. Now it's a binding resolution. These things do happen, and we draw our strength also from the new elements in the labor movement that are struggling, like the strike that took place in Los Angeles, like people who are refusing to be complicit with the CIA, with the US government, with racism that's going on. It's a very long struggle, but it's happening. Today, we refuse, and also the system is very nervous. Hegemony is not working anymore. There is a contestation of public space. So they need to bring in the troops. And this is what's happening. This is why it's what's going on. So, in the meantime, we have to resist. We have to stand up. We have to have revolutionary optimism. As we remember the 3 million martyrs in Vietnam, and then 1.5 million martyrs in Algeria, the millions of indigenous and African people here and throughout Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the world, everybody who gave up their life, everybody who refused to serve, and all the veterans who came out and refused to continue to participate in the US war, everybody who said no, no to war, no to killing, no to death. We are here for love, we are here for peace, we are here for dignity, we are here for justice for everybody. Every human life is worth something. We are here for humanity. Thank you.